Now, for the balance of the hour, Bob Chapman of theinternationalforecaster.com joins us to break down the economy, what's happening in the world. Bob, good to have you here with us.
Well, thank you very much. And I saw the video this morning, and Judy and I viewed it. And it's #1 on the hit parade in my link section under the U.S. section for tomorrow morning.
Thank you, sir. I need everybody's help, and I really appreciate you. What do you think of the video itself? Then we'll talk about Robert saying he believes it's a 6 on a 10 that we're going to completely collapse like Mexico.
Well, first of all, as far as the film is concerned, I'm one of those souls who's been doing and reading about and exercising the things that I should be since, I guess, 1964. You know, vitamins, minerals, herbs, eating the proper thing. It's probably one of the reasons that I'm as healthy as that I am at this, advanced age. And, work 16, 18 hours a day, and it doesn't even faze me. So, people, please listen, because that's the way you should be living, and you shouldn't be eating those kind of foods, and you got to bolster your immune system. So the program is extraordinarily important. It's something, we have a health section, but I don't get into it that deeply. I let others write because I just can't cover everything. But, Alex, it's great. It's a wonderful program, and everybody should jump on the bandwagon.
Well, thank you. Let me just add the caveat. The message isn't just that all this poison is there, but that it's being done by design. We have those documents in the piece. I mean, this is so diabolical. Now, any comments on Roberts and the pieces that he's been putting out lately? I know you follow his work.
Well, in reference to what you were talking about prior to his just leaving, I agree with him, and Ray McGovern, too. But, your comment was these people are nuts, and they are. And they think they're above everything. And even if they cannot justify a war, a new one, wherever it may be, they're going to do it anyway. You got to go back and look at the history of these people. And we only have written history probably back to the year 6 or 7 or 800. But this has been going on for a long time. And they habitually and perpetually, every time they get in the squeeze and they want to blame somebody else for what they're doing, they have a war. And that's why I was able to project the invasion and occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan, because I knew they were going to do something like that. They looked like the suspects, and they were, and that's the way it turned out. So they're trying to use every option. And I've had this conversation, too, on a program which I do with active and retired military people, which I really love doing because they don't know anything about finance per se. And so I've been very helpful to them.
Bob, stay there. Tell us what they're saying to you when we come back. Then I want to get to this amazing Bloomberg report where they admit the insurance companies are stealing people's death benefits from dead soldiers. And we'll talk about what you see happening with the economy. Stay with us. And right beside me is Bob Chapman of theinternationalforecaster.com. All right, Bob, we've got China lowering the credit rating for the U.S. government and the EU. They've got open build-up for war with Iran. I've got this Bloomberg 15-page report where every major insurance company has had the government rules change where they can take dead veterans' insurance money and not give it to people. I mean, it's like we're living in the Twilight Zone, Bob.
It certainly is, and it just shows you that there's nothing there to protect the American public. Within this new financial regulation bill that they passed, the SEC is no longer subject to the Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA as it's known. That means that everything they do is a secret. Now, in there, the SEC only brings civil charges against people for whatever, usually within the brokerage and in the industrial and service industries. And they have always had secret testimony that they wouldn't divulge. But now it will be probably like a court that was held during the 12th century before the Magna Carta. And it's very, very, very bad. But it just as an example of people not having any rights. And this is what this is propelling towards.
Well, I've got that headline, and you and Ron Paul and Judge Napolitano have read the bill that's now law, and you've stated it gives the Federal Reserve total control over the economy with a private board made up of the very leaders of the banks that robbed us. And there's the Fox News headline from Fox Business. We'll put that back on screen. SEC says new financial regulation law exempts it from public disclosure. That way, next time somebody warns them about Bernie Madoff or Ken Lay for 11 or 12 years, they don't even get criticized. No one ever even knows, because they are literally all the former people of these criminal groups. And so that's why the insurance companies say, we'll just stop paying the death benefits on dead soldiers. Ha ha ha!
Diabolical. And you know, I gotta give you 3 instances because I've been in the brokerage business and close to the financial markets for over 50 years. Number one, about 4 months ago, Berkshire Hathaway was found guilty of accounting fraud, $300 million. And I think the fraud was against the U.S. government, but I'm not sure. I didn't read the internals. And they were fined $100 million. So it was worth it for them to do that because they kept $200 million. And then along came Goldman Sachs, and they sold $5 billion or more worth of collateralized debt obligations, which are bonds with mortgages inside them. They were hauled before the SEC for a number of violations in that genre, and they paid a fine of $550 million. So they stole, essentially, $5 billion or more and paid a fine of $500 million, and they kept $4.5 billion. Now, the third one is today. What happened yesterday, Citigroup was fined $75 million. Now, they sold $50 billion worth of CDOs, which are now worth about $15 billion. And that's all they get fined, was $75 million.
And we have all their own internal emails and documents. They knew it was pure worthless crud. They had fake insurance companies certified as AAA, undermining the entire financial system, and they get away with it.
And nobody goes to jail. And they're all interconnected. They all belong to the Illuminati. They control our government from behind the scenes. They control and own the Federal Reserve. And that's why Dr. Roberts, as well as Ron Paul and myself, and you as well, have said that this is tyrannical. People who don't have any idea yet what's going to happen, and it's going to be very nasty.
Because they've committed millions of crimes, why not commit millions of even bigger crimes? They've shown that. Have you ever seen fraud in history that gets anywhere close to this?
No, and not on this colossal basis, so to speak. And it's ongoing. And again, I come back to what you were speaking of earlier with another war, or let's say with Iran. And McGovern and Dr. Roberts and myself and you agree that there's an excellent possibility of that happening, but the justification and the money isn't there. They're going to do it anyway. These people are crazy.
And all of us are in the middle. I want to come back and get into gold, how they're manipulating that, what you see happening in the short, mid, and long term of the economy, and then phone calls for Bob Chapman, 1-800-259-9231. Quick questions or points. We'll get Bob to comment on it. It's all coming up straight ahead. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.tv. Going to Bob Chapman. Bob, people can call a toll-free number, and they can get a free complimentary copy of the International Forecaster, the hard copy, or have it emailed to them. It's 30, 40, 50 pages, depending on which issue it is. It comes out twice a week digital, several times a month, hard copy. Give folks that number if they want to get a copy of the International Forecaster.
Now, that toll-free number is 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178. And don't forget, Ted Anderson at Midas is offering a special, and you get yourself one of those French francs, and you get a free 1-year subscription. And that's the best deal I've ever seen. And so I think you should take advantage of it if you're interested in the publication, but you can still get a free copy.
That's right. He sells francs at the lowest I've seen anywhere, a fifth of an ounce. And then you get a $159 yearly subscription, either digital or mailed to you when you call as well. Give that number out one more time.
Well, that number is 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178, toll free.
Okay, I want to go to Mike, Steve, Kevin, Mark, and a couple other callers. And I know you love taking calls, Bob. But after we take some calls, what are some of the other issues you want to get into today?
Well, I think you mentioned earlier the situation with the gold and silver market, also the stock market. We've already covered some terrific issues. I saw today that, well, I guess it's yesterday now, that as I had predicted earlier, one of the major cities in Greece has gone bankrupt. No, I rephrase that. One of the major cities in Greece has defaulted on some of their loans, and that's Piraeus, which is the main port in the country, which is fairly close to Athens. And so it may have begun over there.
And we saw the euro just a month ago was supposedly going to collapse, but then the Bilderberg said we can't allow that. And then Merkel wouldn't let the brokerage firms come in and manipulate their currencies. Is there a split within the elite right now?
Yes, there is, at least on that measure, and that happens from time to time. They're a greedy bunch, and they always want more money than the next guy. And she did the right thing. There's absolutely no question. And the euro got down to 118.75. Yesterday it closed over 130, and so that's quite a recovery. I would imagine somewhere along the line it will solidify. The consumer confidence in Germany is very strong because they're big exporters, and that less expensive euro is going to make their exports probably at least 10% cheaper than they normally would.
But the implosion of all these fiat currencies has got to go somewhere, the way this system's set up. And some of our economics guests we've had on the last week are saying they see it migrating to London or Tokyo next. What do you say?
Well, that could happen in part. What I thought you were referring to when you asked that question was the currencies and where people are going to go to. And, of course, the main reason that gold is higher than it is, and this is something that people overlook except some professionals, and that is for the last 15 months, gold has been competing with the dollar as for the position of the preeminent currency in the world. People who have currencies, all of them, are gravitating back to gold because they know it doesn't owe anybody anything. And you're going to see this strengthen as time goes on. Not the answer to the question, but in a
No. I mean, it was just an open. No. That is my question. So, I mean, you did answer it. Did gold going down a little bit have to do with an entire year's market being secretly sold by the IMF and World Bank 2 weeks ago?
We don't know what they did. We will find out in time, but there was a lot of selling. But you got to remember, things go up and things go down. Stocks, golds, commodity, etc. And so it's not unhealthy to have a 100-point correction. Sure, it's painful if you're in the long side of the market, but then again, it's not so painful if you've got money to do more buying or you're making an initial investment. You know, like the French roosters, just as an example that Ted uses in his business. They're around, and don't quote me on this, I'm not a coin dealer, but around $265. A year from now, they might be double that. And so what would you rather have, a rooster or a dollar or a Federal Reserve note? And, of course, the answer is pretty simple.
Well, gold is up $13.80 today. When do you see it running back up to the levels it was at 2 months ago?
It's in the process of doing so.
Okay.
And, I thought that by the end of the year we could get 1650, and I think that's still very doable. It might be a little bit more difficult. It's hard to say.